Hello, Ryan here, aka Mac, and welcome. There is a lot of updates to go through, plus an update on unique item recovery. As always, a huge thank you to all of my patrons and channel members. Thank you all so much for the support, it is truly appreciated. So we have quite a few updates to run through, like new patches, Evocati builds, informative posts this week, and a plan to help us get back items when we die. Let us start with Cloud Imperium's plans for this week in regards to patches. Firstly, they are looking to start the 4.1 PTU phases in the next couple of days, and this was posted on the 3rd, so today could be the day for 4.1 to hit the PTU, and this will be for the Evocati initially. Very excited to see 4.1 going into testing almost immediately after 4.02 went live. This is good momentum, and I'm happy to see this push for playability and stability continuing. Now, last night, a new hotfix was updated to the live 4.02 channel. This will be available to download now, and this was mostly to address the multiple server authority, stowing, and cargo issues, along with multiple dedicated game server and client crashes. There have been quite a few supply or die commodity adjustments, with the supply and refresh rate being drastically lowered, as well as an effect value appraisal for shop sourcing versus mining to about even. Not really sure what that last sentence means, but the buy and sell prices for the following commodities have been greatly changed. So tin was increased by 7,300%, ice increased by 3,300%, copper and corundum increased by 2,900%, and detatrine is 50% the price, going from 9,000 to 4,500. So personally, I've not paid too much attention to what everything costs and such for this event, but from what I've seen, people are making massive amounts of credits right now. Could be a little high. Hopefully this brings things in line with where they're expecting, but I'm sure this won't be the only update we see to prices for these events. Now, there are also a few client and server hotfixes, including a fix to the transit system, where entity carriages are getting stuck with no authority, causing it to never arrive, and to block its gateway. Also, upon ship auto-storing through leaving the game or leaving the hangar, the cargo can disappear on its initial retrieval, and the cargo grids are locked from being used. Plus, for personal hangars, if players ungracefully exit while in the hangar, whatever that means, I assume that just means something like F4ing, the hangar stows and does not unstow upon recovery. For top-loading freight elevators, it ignores entities larger than the bounds of the freight elevator shafts from being cleaned up, plus multiple dedicated game server crash fixes and 2 client crash fixes, including one near jump tunnels. So great to see a lot of these fixes coming in now for hangars and so forth. The 4.02 live patch brought with it many elevator fixes. I've not had a problem with elevators in this latest build, so hopefully that continues, but it does look like their attention is now shifting onto prioritizing the hangars and ASOP flow. Funnily enough though, after calling up a PTV in my hangar the other day and getting it stowed for trespassing near the hangar elevators, I was then unable to get my ships, getting that unable to complete request error code, and then playing on the new hotfix update last night, I could get my ships, but it was putting them into a separate hangar. I could not access my own personal hangar. Not sure what's caused this or why it's happened. Hopefully I can get back into my hangar today. But yeah, very happy to see them now prioritizing the hangar and ASOP issues, as after elevators, these are certainly the next priority. Now, as said, the hotfix patch is available to download on the live 4.0.2 branch right now. Now, for this week, we have a few info dumps incoming, which I'm really looking forward to reading. Firstly, today being Wednesday, there will be a new monthly report for all of the work done in the PU in February. Always look forward to these, and of course I will break it down into its separate video. There is also going to be a new ship owner's guide post today covering components, power, and signatures, offering insights into how to optimize our ship, it says. Now this, I'm really hoping, is to coincide with the upcoming engineering and signature system updates. I can't imagine they would spend time putting together a post like this for how the current components and signatures work, with a big refactor for both of these systems coming soon. And as we have seen with the quantum drives recently, engineering will warrant a huge balance update to all components and their attributes, their strengths, their weaknesses, their abilities, and this will also massively impact ship signatures, making it all more systemic. We know engineering wasn't far off, with its originally slated release being for 4.0, getting pushed back as priority was on server meshing, but with playability and stability now being the priority, it's hard to say when engineering will come. We know they didn't want to hold on to it, but since then we've heard about this shift in priority, so hopefully this post can update us on when they intend to bring it in, whether it's going to be a 4.1, a 4.1 point patch, which would be my guess, or even later, it could be a patch later on this year. It's hard to say, but as I say, we might get some insight into what to expect today. And for me personally, this is going to be a very interesting post to read. Again, I will probably cover it in its separate video. Now, there is also a new Star Citizen live this week on Thursday, which will be a Q&A with the mission team, so that should be a nice information overload video for all things missions. And I'm hoping they're going to talk further about how the dynamic mission system can affect all missions going forwards, so we will see. Now, finally, we have a Spectrum post talking about the upcoming unique item, or just item recovery system, that will start rolling out with 4.1 onwards. So quickly, item recovery is essentially the ability for players to claim back unique items like subflare or items purchased on the website, or even their own items in-game, I guess. But it does state that this system will roll out by way of Tier 0 for 4.1, and then Tier 1 and 2 later on. Now, no dates are given for Tier 1 and 2. They did say a while back that they're going to start moving away from doing Tier 0 implementations, but this isn't going to be like they used to do, where they give us a simple method and then have to replace the whole thing later on. It is more of a structured early version of the actual system that will be built upon until it is complete. So basically exposing a very rudimentary early version of this system that can still provide benefits, even if it's in a very gamified way, which it will be, to then incrementally improve on that and build upon it to be more nuanced and full as time goes on. Anyway, so for Tier 0, this is 4.1. This will allow the players to respawn with all of the gear that they have equipped on themselves at the time of death. And by equipped, this means armor, weapons, and items that you have attached to your suit or in your hands. Anything in your backpack or in your pockets will be lost, will not be respawned, and they can be looted. So good to see that we can wear and use our unique items that are equipped and get them back. That's been obviously a big problem for a while, people wanting to use their subflare or items they've bought, but knowing that the minute they've lost them, they'll have to wait for either a player refresh or a whole new patch. There are still some questions here, like, does this duplicate the item that we have equipped? Can we go back and loot the armor and weapons and kind of keep duplicating that? Which would obviously impact the economy. Also, can other players loot the items like weapons and armors that you have? So, be interesting to get those answered, as right now it's just speculative as to whether you can or you can't. But for Tier 1 and 2, which they say they are actively developing at this time, this will introduce loadout and ship registration. Basically, registering your gear and ships at kiosks or ASOP terminals. Now, something to note here is for personal loadouts, players will be able to register their equipped items, which can be reclaimed for a fee at specific kiosks or freight elevators. For ships and their interiors, like loadout, decorations, and locker content, this can also be registered, and they can then be reclaimed in the state that they were registered in at the ASOP terminal for a price. Now, when it comes to looting items, it says the item remains unusable when looted until the original owner reclaims it or marks it as stolen, and then it says at that point a dead man switch is activated and the item will cease to work after a period of time, which is referred to as being bricked. Now, personally, I understand why they're doing this in terms of the legalities of ownership and whatnot, but I'm not a big fan of this for items. For ships, fair enough, but for items, not so much. Even with this ability to restore later on, but I will speak about this a bit later on in the video. Now, these bricked items can still be sold for credits. For pledged items, these are auto-registered and will never lose their registration status and can always be claimed back, even if they are not manually registered. And with Tier 1, you will no longer respawn with your gear already equipped, so moving away from that Tier 0 implementation, and so you would need to go to the kiosk or freight elevators to reclaim your items again. But on a side note, they said they're also working on a quality of life feature that will allow us to fully re-equip everything with an auto-equip button at these locations, saving us a bit of time, which is also a feature that will be part of lockers, like armor lockers. You could have a full outfit with weapons and so forth on this sort of armor locker and then equip it, and it'll equip all immediately. But that is later on. This is, I suppose, paving that way. Now for tier 2, this brings a way for bricked items to be restored. So once the item is looted, you'll be able to sell it, dismantle it for crafting materials, or restore it if it's been bricked, with a potential cost of crafting materials and credits, so likely using the crafting mechanic to do so, and then that will make it yours, so your ownership over it. It says this system creates a viable path for piracy, allowing players to claim another player's belongings if you take the steps to legitimize ownership. And if an item had a cosmetic applied, like a skin, removing it will restore the cosmetic in the process. Now, let me just talk about my opinion here, and this is all just my opinion, just how I feel about it. There is a lot to break down. Firstly, the idea of a cosmetic skin getting removed is not a good idea in my opinion. I'd much prefer to see a weapon or see a range of the same weapon on the floor and pick the one that has the skin that I like the most and take that. I don't know why they're not allowing the skins to be retained or remain on afterwards. I say keep the skin, don't delete it, then we can collect a range of different colours. But more importantly, I'm not a fan of the items like weapons, armors and so on being bricked. As I say, I get that ownership and stolen goods and the legalities behind it are a big important part of what's going on here. But I think don't stop the item from being used. I feel like it's just overcomplicating things. For ships, fair enough though. I think in terms of, a dead switch or a kill switch being applied to an insurance thing, when you claim it on insurance, it flips that switch and then the players will need to tow it or, pay or craft to bypass that claim and then make it their own. But for items, not so much. I say allow the item to be usable but mark it as stolen, and so if you go into high security systems, it could be flagged up as stolen goods. For unique items, so ones like subflare and items you pay real money for, I think just a simple unique item vendor where you pay to get your item back is a better way, with a cooldown. There must be a cooldown, so that loss is still important, but I do think keeping this stuff logical needs to be prominent. And for weapons and armors and such, you should be able to go around and loot what you see and use it, but have it marked as stolen, and then anyone using it in a location with comms and laws, it'll get flagged and you'd have to either hand it over and pay a fine, or then go and craft or do whatever you would need to do to unmark it as stolen. This, I think, would lead to much more interesting gameplay than just an item randomly not working after a certain amount of time and having to then run hoops to get it back and working again. Of course, we haven't heard about the intentions for how we actually go about unbricking an item. There is a lot more information we need here before we can make a full decision as to whether we agree or not agree. Not that it matters, it's still their decision, I suppose. But I also suspect that for NPCs, we can still loot items from them. This will be mostly just referring to player-owned items. Anyway, there is a lot to unpack with this. It has many facets. I'm not overly sold on the bricked items. Ships, yes, but bricked items, not so much. I say keep it more logical, keep it more simple, but still allow a way for ownership to be prominent, and then having to find a way to change ownership. Everything else fits fine. I just think having a weapon or an armor piece, I don't even know how an armor piece would stop working other than just not being able to equip it. It seems a little overcomplicated. Allow it to work, flag it as stolen. You can run some hoops to try and get it so that you own it and it's no longer flagged as stolen, and then just have a fence to sell the stolen goods to if you don't want to go through that. But anyway, we will discuss this more, I'm sure, and we certainly need a lot more information from CIG with all the nuances to what they are planning here. It sounds like a good system that is very much needed, but with a lot of details missing, it's hard to say whether it's great or not so great. Anyway, that is the vid for today. Lots happening right now, a lot of exciting things happening today, in fact. If you do enjoy my videos, please do consider subscribing and helping the channel to grow. Also, come and hang out over at twitch.tv/SuperMacBrother, the link is below, or here on YouTube. I stream to both. We will be trying to do some salvaging in the Reclaimer today, paying towards the CFP supply or die stuff. Hit the like button if you don't mind, it does the channel a big favour, and tick that notification bell if you would like to be notified when my videos go live. Do check out my camping channel, where I will be putting up videos of all of my camping trips and outdoor adventures. It is also linked below. A big thank you again to my patrons and channel members. Cannot do this without you guys. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.